For thousands of years, humanity has told stories of power, emperors, conquerors, merchants, and kings who bent entire civilizations to their will. But among all the extraordinary figures who walked the earth, one question continues to ignite debate, wonder, and myth. Who was the richest person to ever live? To answer that, we must travel deep into history, across continents and centuries, beyond the familiar tales of modern billionaires and into the forgotten corridors of ancient wealth, where fortunes so vast they defy imagination were not measured by bank accounts or stock portfolios, but by empires, armies, gold mines, trade monopolies, and the absolute control of resources that shaped the destiny of humankind. And so our story begins with a moment, one that historians still struggle to quantify. In the year 1324, when a single man set out on a pilgrimage across the Sahara Desert with a caravan so massive, so glittering, and so impossibly wealthy that it permanently changed the economies of entire nations. His name was Mansa Musa, the emperor of the Mali Empire, and to many, he is unquestionably the richest person to ever walk the earth. Imagine the scene, the scorching sun above, an endless golden horizon ahead, and behind him tens of thousands of soldiers, slaves, servants, officials, and traders, stretching farther than the eye could see. Hundreds of camels and horses carrying hundreds of kilograms of pure gold, musicians playing, banners waving, dust swirling beneath the feet of a moving kingdom, and at the center of it all, Mansa Musa himself, robed in embroidered fabrics threaded with gold, a man whose wealth was not simply vast, it was transformative. Contemporary Arab historians wrote that when he passed through Cairo on his way to Mecca, he spent so much gold on gifts, alms, trade, and charity that he caused massive inflation in Egypt, devaluing gold for more than a decade. The world had never witnessed such a spectacle, and even today, economists attempt to estimate his wealth in modern terms, placing it at the equivalent of $400 billion to well over $1 trillion, numbers so extreme that they surpass every billionaire alive. But Mansa Musa's fortune was not just personal, it was structural. The Mali Empire controlled half of the world's gold production at the time, along with vast salt mines, trade routes, and strategic cities like Timbuktu, which Musa transformed into a global center of scholarship, science, and culture. His riches were rooted in natural resources, taxation systems, armies, spirituality, and statecraft, a fusion of economic and political power that no modern billionaire could replicate, because his wealth wasn't simply money, it was sovereignty itself. Yet Mansa Musa was not the only contender for the title of richest human in history. Long before him, in ancient India, the shadow of another titan loomed large, the Emperor Akbar the Great, ruler of the Mughal Empire, whose domain controlled nearly 1/4 of the world's GDP in the 16th century. Imagine an empire so wealthy that its treasury overflowed with gemstones, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and gold, where entire cities were carved from marble and palaces glittered beneath monsoon skies like earthly replicas of paradise. Akbar's personal wealth, when adjusted for modern value, has been estimated by economic historians at over $20 trillion in empire-controlled resources, more than the GDP of the United States today. His power stemmed not just from conquest, but from a sophisticated administrative system, agricultural reforms, global trade networks, and a centralized treasury unrivaled anywhere on Earth. While Mansa Musa commanded gold, Akbar commanded production, grain, textiles, metalwork, silk, spices, and land revenues that fed one of the largest standing armies in human history. And still, he was not alone. Travel even further back to ancient Rome, and you'll encounter Augustus Caesar, the founder of the Roman Empire, a man whose personal fortune, boosted by inheritance, conquest, taxation, and the immense wealth of the Mediterranean, was estimated to be roughly 1/5 of Rome's entire economy. In today's terms, that places his wealth at $4.6 trillion, a staggering figure that would make even the world's richest modern billionaires appear microscopic. Augustus presided over an empire overflowing with silver mines in Spain, gold-rich provinces in Gaul, grain from Egypt, trade routes stretching from Britain to India, and tax revenues from tens of millions of subjects. His wealth was so deeply intertwined with the Roman state that the lines between personal fortune and national treasury blurred, creating a form of power unmatched in modern capitalism. But even the Roman Empire was far from the peak of historical wealth. For that, we must look to the mysterious world of the ancient Near East, where King Solomon, the biblical ruler famed for his wisdom, presided over a kingdom that controlled vast trade networks connecting Arabia, Africa, and the Mediterranean. The Bible describes Solomon receiving 25 tons of gold every year, not counting taxes, trade profits, tribute, and mining wealth, a stream of riches so immense that economists estimate his net worth in modern value at over $2 trillion. His palace was lined with gold, his throne was coated in pure gold. Silver became so abundant in Jerusalem during his reign that it was considered almost worthless. And yet, history stretches even further, leading us into the world of the Song dynasty in China, where emperors like Zhao Shu, Emperor Shenzong, controlled an economy that revolutionized global trade with innovations like paper money, advanced taxation systems, steel production, and commercial banking. Adjusted for modern value, the Song dynasty emperors commanded trillions in economic resources, making them contenders in this eternal ranking of wealth. Then there were the House Rothschild, perhaps the wealthiest family of the modern era. In the 19th century, they controlled Europe's most powerful banking empire, financing governments, wars, infrastructure, and industries. Their combined family wealth spread across London, Paris, Vienna, Frankfurt, and Naples has been estimated at over $1 trillion at its peak, though some claim it was far higher. Unlike kings and emperors, their wealth came not from armies or land, but from the birth of modern banking, credit, bonds, and the ability to move capital across borders faster than any government. Still, despite their immense fortune, none of them could eclipse the scale of ancient imperial wealth, measured as a percentage of global GDP. And that brings us to another hidden giant, Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire. Though he lived a life of brutal simplicity, no golden palaces, no lavish display, he controlled the largest contiguous land empire in human history. The Mongols dominated trade routes, cities, and resources from China to Europe, including silk, spices, gold mines, livestock, and entire conquered treasuries. If his empire's total resources were counted as his personal wealth, it would exceed $100 trillion in modern value. Yet, because Mongol tradition rejected private property for the Khan, historians do not list him as the richest man, even though he ruled wealth larger than that of any modern nation. And then, of course, are the modern titans. John D. Rockefeller, the world's first billionaire and still the richest American in history when adjusted for inflation, reaching a net worth equivalent to $400 billion. Andrew Carnegie, whose fortune equals $330 billion. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and others whose digital era wealth has reshaped the 21st century. But even the mightiest of them remain tiny compared to the unfathomable scale of ancient imperial wealth. But this reveals a deeper truth. Wealth itself is not merely a number. It is a story, a reflection of power, culture, trade, war, innovation, and the ability to shape societies. The richest people in history were not simply wealthy, they were architects of the world as we know it. Their decisions moved armies, built cities, destroyed civilizations, funded religions, altered the course of human destiny. Mansa Musa's gold sparked global trade. Augustus Caesar's imperial treasury stabilized an empire that lasted centuries. Akbar the Great created a multicultural state whose art, architecture, and governance still influence South Asia. Solomon's reign left theological and historical impact still debated today. The Rothschilds built the foundations of international finance, and the modern tech billionaires are transforming communication, transportation, space exploration, energy, and artificial intelligence. And yet the true question behind this documentary is not simply who was the richest person ever, but what does wealth mean in the grand timeline of human history? Because every empire rises, every fortune peaks, every dynasty fades, and every currency eventually collapses or transforms. Gold loses value, markets crash, empires crumble. Even the greatest kings are forgotten. But the legacy of wealth, how it is used, what it builds, who it empowers, and who it destroys, echoes across centuries. The richest people ever lived not just in palaces of gold, but in the pages of history they helped write. And as we study their stories, Mansa Musa's golden pilgrimage, Augustus Caesar's imperial treasury, Akbar the Great's prosperous reign, Solomon's legendary fortune, the Rothschilds' financial empire, we are reminded that wealth is both creation and destruction, power and responsibility, opportunity and danger. It can elevate nations or collapse them. It can fund knowledge or fuel war. It can liberate or enslave. And so, the story of the richest people in history is ultimately the story of humanity itself, our ambitions, our fears, our brilliance, and our endless pursuit of more. In the end, the true richest person who ever lived is not just measured in numbers, but in the magnitude of their influence, the scale of their legacy, and the shadow they cast across time.